Hello everyone and welcome to IVSA Bidhar's official YouTube channel Pashuvani. Pashuvani is a platform that provides you with veterinary education. Our video series consists of practical relevant lecture videos, field approach clinical aspects, guide and tip for future careers, smart content related to both animal and veterinary science. We believe sharing is caring, so please like, comment and subscribe for further updates. And now, let's welcome our speaker of today's episode of Saturday's Sharing.
Hello everyone, I am Snehalata from Veterinary College Bidar studying in first year.
In this session, we'll discuss about the skeletal muscle, organization of the muscle fiber, types of skeletal muscle fibers, sliding filament theory of contraction, skeletal muscle contraction step by step, and muscle relaxation, steps in excitation contraction coupling in skeletal muscles, sources of energy for muscle contraction, rigor mortis and muscle fatigue. Muscle is a specialized tissue of mesodermal origin. Skeletal muscle are closely associated with the skeletal components of the body. They have a stripped appearance under the microscope and are hence called striated muscles, as their activities are under the control of voluntary control of the nervous system. They are known as voluntary muscles. They are primarily involved in locomotory actions and changes of body postures. Striated muscles, some of the special features are they are cylindrical, they have light and dark band, that is they are called striated muscles. Multinucleated nucleus, that is syncytium. Nucleus is present at the periphery and these muscles get easily fatigued. Now we look at about the organization of skeletal muscle. Each organized skeletal muscle in our body is made up of number of muscle bundles or fascicles held together by a common collagenous connective tissue layer called fascia. Each muscle bundle contains a number of muscle fibers. Each muscle fiber is lined by the plasma membrane called sarcolemma, enclosing the sarcoplasm. Muscle fiber is syncytium as the sarcoplasm contains many nuclei. The endoplasmic reticulum, that is sarcoplasmic reticulum of the muscle fiber, is the storehouse of calcium ions. A characteristic feature of the muscle fiber is the presence of large number of parallelly arranged filaments in the sarcoplasm called myofilaments or myofibrils. Skeletal muscle. Skeletal muscle is made up of many muscle bundles, that is fascicles. Fascicles are made up of muscle fiber, that is also called as myocyte, and myocyte is made up of many myofibrils. Myofibrils are made up of myofilament. Myofilament are the smallest unit of skeletal muscle. Skeletal muscle are wholly surrounded by the epimyocin, and muscle bundles, that is fascicles, are covered by the perimyocin, and muscle fibers, that is myocyte, are covered by the endomyocin. The pigment which is present in the muscle is called myoglobin, which is the oxygen reservoir. Some of the cell organelles are differently named in the muscle cell. That is, cytoplasm is called sarcoplasm, cell membrane is called sarcolemma, endoplasmic reticulum is called sarcoplasmic reticulum, and mitochondria is called sarcosomes in the muscles. The two important proteins in the muscles are actin and myosin. The light bands contain actin and is called I band or isotropic band, which is thin, so it is called as thin filaments also. Whereas the dark bands called A or anisotropic contains myosin. It is thick and are also called as thick filaments. In the center of each I band is an elastic fiber called Z line which bisect it. The thin filament are firmly attached to the Z line. The thick filament in the A band are also held together in the middle of this band by a thin fibrous membrane called M line. The A and I bands are arranged alternatively throughout the length of the myofibril. The portion of the myofibril between two successive Z line is considered as the functional unit of contraction and is called sarcomere. Functional unit of contraction is called sarcomere. What is that? That is the myofibril between two successive Z lines. In a resting state, the edges of the thin filaments on either side of the thick filament partially overlap the free ends of the thick filament, leaving the central part of the thick filament. This part of thick filament not overlapped by thin filament is called H zone. Now we'll briefly look at what we have studied. Each muscle fiber protein filament contains parallelly arranged actin and myosin. Myofibril contain alternate light and dark bands. Dark band contain myosin protein, that is thick filament, and light actin, that is thin filament. Dark band also called as anisotropic, light band is called isotropic I band. Sarcomere is defined as the functional unit of muscle contraction. Z line to Z line, or the distance between the Z line, is called sarcomere. The part which contains actin filament is called I band. The part of sarcomere which contains myosin is called A band. It has myosin and little actin. The part of sarcomere which contains only myosin is called H zone. The line bisecting the I band is the Z line and A band is the M line. In H zone, actin is not overlapping myosin in the resting phase, whereas in the contraction the H zone will disappear. Now we'll look at deep into the actin and myosin. Each actin thin filament is made up of 2 F filament actins helically wound to each other. Each F actin is a polymer of monomeric G globular actins. 2 filaments of the another protein, tropomyosin, also run close to the F actins throughout its length. A complex protein, troponin, is distributed at regular intervals on the tropomyosin. In the resting state, a subunit of troponin masks the active binding site for myosin on the actin filament. Troponin 3 subunits. The first one, the troponin, tropomyosin, the troponin calcium, the troponin inhibits. The troponin calcium is actually where the calcium binds, and troponin inhibitor is the place where it actually masks the myosin binding sites. If that detaches from the tropomyosin, then only the myosin head will go and attach to the actin filament. Each myosin thick filament is also a polymerized protein. Many monomeric protein called meromyosin constitute one thick filament. Each meromyosin has 2 important parts, a globular head with a short arm and a tail. The former being called the heavy meromyosin and later the called light meromyosin. The heavy meromyosin component, that is the head and short arm, projects outward at regular distance and angle from each other from the surface of a polymerized myosin filament and is known as cross arm. The globular head is an active ATPase enzyme and has binding sites for ATP and active sites for actin. Now let's discuss about the types of skeletal muscle fibers. All skeletal muscle fibers do not have the same mechanical and metabolic characteristics. Different types of fibers can be identified on the basis of their, first thing, maximal velocities of shortening, that is fast and slow fibers, and the second one, the major pathway used to form ATP, that is oxidative and glycolytic fibers. On the basis of these 2 characteristics, 3 types of skeletal muscle fibers can be distinguished. First one is slow oxidative fibers, that is type 1, which is having low myosin ATPase activity with the high oxidative capacity. Now what's oxidative capacity? It's the measure of muscles' maximal capacity to use oxygen in microliters of oxygen consumed per gram of muscle per hour. It's nothing but the oxygen used by the muscle per gram per hour. And the muscles fibers which have high oxidative capacity are more energetic. And the second one type is type 2A, which is fast oxidative fibers. High myosin ATPase activity with the high oxidative capacity. Third one is fast glycolytic fibers, type 2B. High myosin ATPase activity with the high glycolytic capacity. Now what's glycolytic capacity? It's the measure of maximum capacity of glycolysis to generate the ATP. Note that the fourth theoretically, it's not possible. Slow glycolytic fibers are not at all found. So, fourth type of fiber is not theoretically possible. Now we look at about the table which shows the differentiation between the 3 muscle fibers. First, primary source of ATP production. It is oxidative phosphorylation in slow oxidative fibers and fast oxidative fibers, and glycolysis in the fast glycolytic fibers. Mitochondria, capillaries and myoglobin content are many and high in the slow and fast oxidative fibers and low or few in the fast glycolytic fibers. Glycolytic enzyme activity and glycogen content is low in the slow oxidative fibers, intermediate in the fast oxidative fibers, high in the fast glycolytic fibers. Rate of fatigue is low in the slow oxidative fibers, intermediate in the fast oxidative fibers, and fast in the fast glycolytic fibers. Myosin ATPase activity is low in the slow oxidative fibers, high in the fast oxidative fibers, and high in the fast glycolytic fibers. Contraction velocity is low in the slow oxidative fibers, fast in the fast oxidative fibers, and fast in the fast glycolytic fibers. Fiber diameter, motor unit size, and size of motor neuron intervening fiber is small in the slow oxidative fibers, intermediate in the fast oxidative fibers, and large in the fast glycolytic fibers. In the second table, you can majorly focus on the respiration. See, respiration is aerobic in both slow oxidative and fast oxidative fibers, and anaerobic in the fast glycolytic fibers. Sliding filament theory of contraction. A myofiber, together with all its myofibrils, shortens by movement of the insertion towards the origin of the muscle. Shortening of the myofibrils is caused by shortening of the sarcomere. The distance between Z lines is reduced. Sarcomere reduces, myofibrils also reduces. Shortening of the sarcomere is accomplished by the sliding of the myofilaments. The length of each filament remains the same during contraction. The length of each filament will remain same. The sliding of the filaments is produced by a synchronous power stroke of myosin cross bridges, which pull the thin filament actin over the thick filament myosin. The A band remains the same length during contraction, but are pulled toward the origin of the muscle. Adjacent A bands are pulled closer together as the I bands between them shorten. The H band shorten during contraction as the thin filament on the sides of the sarcomeres are pulled towards the middle. In this, we can summarize that I band size decreases, A band remains same, H zone decreases and disappear in maximum contraction. Sarcomere size decreases, size of actin and myosin remains same. You can now see the diagram of the sliding filament model of contraction. As the filament slides, the Z lines are brought closer together and the sarcomeres get shortened. In first diagram, it's relaxed muscle. In that, H zone is more. In partially contracted muscle, it's decreasing, and in fully contracted muscle, it's so less. Now we'll discuss about skeletal muscle contraction step by step. How this contraction takes place, what are the processes, what are the things going on in this contraction. An action potential travels through the axon terminal and eventually reaches the synaptic terminal. Action potential, when it travels, it reaches the axon terminal and then synaptic terminal. And then the whole contractions begins from this. The depolarization of the synaptic terminal from the action potential induces opening of the calcium voltage gated channels. What will release? Calcium will be depolarization will causes the opening of calcium voltage gated channels. Opening of these channels allows flux of calcium ions inside the neuron. Increase of the intracellular calcium concentration introduces conformational changes of the microtubular component of the neuronal synaptic terminal cytoskeleton. These cytoskeletal changes lead the exocytotic process concerning the synaptic vesicle containing acetylcholine neurotransmitter. Those exocytosis acetylcholine is secreted from the synaptic terminal membrane into the postsynaptic cleft towards the sarcolemma, directly opposite the synaptic terminal. As soon as the neurotransmitter reaches the sarcolemma, it binds to the receptor on a ligand-gated ion channel. These receptors, specific for acetylcholine, the receptors are called nicotinic receptors and are sensitive to nicotine besides acetylcholine. As soon as the neurotransmitters receptor complexes are formed, they induce conformational changes in an integral protein coupled with the nicotinic receptor. These conformational changes allow the opening of the channel, which in turn cause an influx of Na+ ions into the muscle fiber. Accumulation of Na+ within the cell commences the depolarization of the membrane, gives rise to the end plate potential that keep rising towards an action potential threshold. Once the threshold is exceeded, positive feedback of Na+, opening more Na+, ensure that depolarization to the normal level seen in action potential plus 30 MV will occur. The action potential spreads across sarcolemma and deep into the interior of the muscle fiber via T-tubules. What are T-tubules? T-tubules are the invaginations of the sarcolemma. The spreading of depolarization promotes activation of the calcium voltage gated channels located on the plasma membrane and in the T-tubules. Opening of the calcium channels cause a small initial influx of calcium ions inside the cell, increases the intracellular calcium concentration, which in turn opens calcium voltage gated channels in the membrane of the sarcoplasmic reticulum, allowing even greater increase of intracellular calcium. The calcium that accumulates after a skeletal muscle cell depolarization is the reason for the initiation and maintenance of the contraction of sarcomere. Thus, increasing the calcium inside the cell will also increase the contractile force produced by the fibers. The free calcium binds with the troponin C protein component of the thin actin filament, introducing the active calcium troponin complex. This binding causes the conformational changes of the troponin C. The conformational change of the troponin C induces the alteration of the conformation of the tropomyosin protein component of the thin actin filament. These changes altogether promote the exposure of the actin binding site in the order to provide anchoring of the myosin filament heads in effect, allowing interaction between the thick and thin filament and elicit contraction. Myosin binds to the newly uncovered binding sites on the thin filament. Once bound ADP and phosphate are released and the power stroke occur. This will pull the Z band towards each other, thus shortening the sarcomere and the I band. Following the power stroke, ATP binds to myosin. This allows the myosin head to once again detach from the actin filament. The myosin then hydrolyzes the ATP and uses the energy to move into the cooked back conformation. The cycling of myosin head will continue to repeat until either the muscle has been fully contracted or there is a decrease in intracellular calcium. This normally is due to their voluntary relaxation of the muscle or is induced via signals from the Golgi tendon organ. In the diagram you can see the cross bridge power stroke. There the ATP is very important for contraction as well as for relaxation. In first diagram, the myosin head has been activated by the splitting of ATP into ADP and phosphate, which remain bound. At this point, the myosin head has bonded to the actin, forming a cross bridge between the thick and thin filament. After the phosphate groups leave the cross bridge, the myosin head changes its orientation, producing the power stroke that moves the actin filament. In this diagram, the first resting fiber cross bridge is not attached to the actin. In the second, after using the ATP, the cross bridge binds to the actin. The cross bridge is formed. Phosphate is released from the myosin head, causing conformational change in myosin. Power stroke causes filament to slide. ADP is released. A new ATP binds to the myosin head, allowing it to release from the ATP. Actin. ATP is hydrolyzed and phosphate binds to myosin, causing cross bridge to return to its original orientation. Muscle relaxation. As long as action potential continue to be produced, which is as long as neural stimulation of the muscle is maintained, the calcium release channels in the sarcoplasmic reticulum will remain open. Calcium will passively diffuse out of the sarcoplasmic reticulum and the calcium concentration of the sarcoplasm will remain high. Thus calcium will remain attached to troponin and the cross bridge cycle will continue to maintain contraction. To stop this action, the production of action potential must cease, causing the calcium release channels to close. When this occurs, the effect of transport carriers in the sarcoplasmic reticulum predominates. These are active transport pumps for calcium termed calcium ATPase pumps that move calcium from the sarcoplasm into the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Because these active transport pumps are powered by the hydrolysis of ATP. ATP is needed for muscle relaxation as well as for muscle contraction. Let us summarize muscle contraction and relaxation. Action potential travels from axon to the synaptic terminal. Then depolarization takes place. Because of this depolarization, calcium voltage gated channels will open. Then influx of calcium takes place. Conformational changes in the microtubular component of the cytoskeleton, acetylcholine neuroreceptors are secreted. From pre or post-synaptic cleft, acetylcholine reach sarcolemma. Ligand-gated ion channel open, sensitive to acetylcholine and sensitive to nicotinic receptor. Conformational changes in the integral protein of the nicotine receptor. Then influx of sodium in muscle fiber, potential becomes positive inside. Action potential spreads to sarcolemma and deep interior of T tubules. And calcium channels open. Free calcium binds with the troponin C. Active calcium troponin complex. Conformational changes in the troponin C, tropomyosin protein promote exposure of actin binding site. Troponin I loses its affinity towards actin. Troponin T can no longer hold tropomyosin binding site exposed to myosin. Once bound ADP plus phosphate are released in myosin head, power stroke will occur. For binding and detaching of actin and myosin ATP is required. Cycling of myosin head will continue to repeat until either muscle is fully contracted or calcium decreases. Steps in excitation, contraction, coupling in skeletal muscle. Action potential in the muscle cell membrane initiate depolarization of the T tubules. Depolarization of the T tubules causes a conformational change in its dihydropyridine receptors, which opens calcium release channels in the nearby sarcoplasmic reticulum, causing release of calcium from the sarcoplasmic reticulum into the intracellular fluid. Intracellular calcium increases. Calcium binds to the troponin. The thin filament causes a conformational change in troponin that moves tropomyosin out of the way. The arrival of an action potential at sarcoplasmic reticulum causes release of calcium down the concentration gradient to sarcoplasmic reticulum. Release of calcium causes conformational change to affect contraction as action potential passes. Calciums are pumped again to the sarcoplasmic reticulum and relaxation happens. This is known as excitation, contraction, coupling. At first, no ATP is bound to myosin and myosin is tightly attached to the actin in rapidly contracting muscle. This stage is brief. In absence of ATP, this stage is permanent, that is rigor mortis. ATP then binds to myosin, producing a conformational change in myosin that causes myosin to be released from actin. Myosin is displaced toward the plus end of actin. There is hydrolysis of ATP to ADP and inorganic phosphate. ADP remains attached to myosin. Myosin attached to a new site on actin which constitutes the power stroke. ADP is then released, returning myosin to its rigorous state. The cycle repeats as long as the calcium is bound to the troponin C. Each cross bridge cycle walks myosin further along the actin filament. Relaxation occurs when calcium is reaccumulated by the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Calcium ATPase. Intracellular calcium concentration decreases. Calcium is released from the troponin C, and tropomyosin again blocks the myosin binding site on actin. As long as intracellular calcium concentration is low, cross-bridge cycling cannot occur. Excitation contraction coupling in skeletal muscle. Acetylcholine released by somatic motor neuron binds to nicotinic acetylcholine receptors in the sarcolemma, causing a depolarization that stimulates. The diagram, you can see the second one. The second marked place, the voltage gated channels produces action potential. They are voltage gated channels. And the third one, the conduction of action potential along the transverse tubules stimulate the opening of voltage-gated calcium channels. The fourth one, these channels in the transverse tubules are mechanically coupled to the calcium release channel in the sarcoplasmic reticulum, causing them to open calcium, then diffuses out of the sarcoplasmic reticulum so that it can bind to troponin and stimulate muscle contraction. Mechanism of tetanus. A single action potential causes the release of standard amount of calcium from the sarcoplasmic reticulum and produce a single twitch. However, if the muscle is stimulated repeatedly, more calcium is released and the sarcoplasmic reticulum, and there is a cumulative increase in intracellular calcium, extending the time for cross-bridge cycling. The muscle does not relax. This is tetanus. Now, sources for energy for muscle contraction. The three sources of ATP production during muscle contraction are creatine and phosphate, oxidative phosphorylation, and glycolysis. Now we will see about the special cases like rigor mortis and fatigue of muscles. Rigor mortis is a Latin word. Rigor means stiffness and mortis means of death. It is stiffness of death or post-mortem rigidity. It is the third stage of death. It is one of the recognized signs of death, characterized by stiffening of the limbs of the carpus caused by chemical changes in the muscles. Post-mortem, mainly calcium. In human, rigor mortis can occur as soon as 4 hours after the death. Rigor mortis is the process that causes the muscle in body to stiffen, resulting in rigidity due to range of chemical changes in the muscle structure. Rigor mortis usually starts in 2nd hour and completes 3rd hour after the death. Disappears 24 to 36 hours after death due to autolysis. After death, aerobic respiration in an organism ceases, depleting the source of oxygen using in the making of adenosine triphosphate (ATP). ATP is required to cause separation of actin-myosin cross bridges. During relaxation of muscle, when oxygen is no longer present, the body may continue to produce ATP via anaerobic glycolysis. Okay, after the death, the ATP is produced anaerobically through the glycolysis. When the body's glycogen is depleted, the ATP concentration diminishes and the body enters rigor mortis because it is unable to break those bridges. Calcium enters the cytosol after death. Calcium is released into the cytosol due to deterioration of the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Also, the breakdown of the sarcolemma causes additional calcium to enter the cytosol. The calcium activates the formation of actin-myosin cross-bridging. Once calcium is introduced into the cytosol, it binds to the troponin of thin filament, which causes the troponin-tropomyosin complex to change the shape and allow the myosin head to bind to the active sites of the actin protein. In rigor mortis, myosin heads continue binding with the active sites of the ADP, and the muscle is unable to relax until further enzyme activity degrades the complex. Normal relaxation would occur by the replacing ADP with ATP, which would destabilize the myosin actin bond and the cross bridging. However, as ATP is absent, there must be breakdown of muscle tissue by enzyme during decomposition. As part of the process of decomposition, the myosin heads are degraded by the enzyme, allowing the muscle contraction to release and the body to relax. Let us summarize this rigor mortis. Okay, rigor mortis occurs after the death, that is 2nd hour to the 3rd hour after the death, and that no ATP is formed. Okay, calcium pumps run out of ATP and calcium cannot be removed, so more amount of calcium will be accumulated and there is no ATP, so the cross bridges will be present as it is. It causes the stiffness of muscle and this rigor mortis occurs in this way. Muscle fatigue. Muscle fatigue is the decline in ability of the muscle to generate force. It can be result of vigorous exercise, but abnormal fatigue may be caused by barriers to or interference with the different stages of muscle contraction. There are two main causes of muscle fatigue: the limitations of the nerve's ability to generate a sustainable signal, that is neural fatigue, and second one is the reduced ability of the muscle fiber to contract, that is metabolic fatigue. Two types, that is neural fatigue and metabolic fatigue. Causes of fatigue: continuous stimulation of the nerve fiber or continuous stimulation of the muscle, that too under ischemia, that is impaired blood supply, causes lack of energy sources, depletion of neurotransmitters, and accumulation of metabolic end products such as lactic acid. Lack of energy sources: depletion of oxygen from myoglobin, depletion of muscle glycogen, depletion of ATP. This causes lack of energy sources. Depletion of neurotransmitters: prolonged muscle activity diminishes neurotransmitters acetylcholine concentration in the neuromuscular junction, thereby reduces the transmission of the impulses to muscle, which causes diminished muscle contraction. Accumulation of the metabolic end products such as lactic acid. In oxygen lack, the muscle glycogen broken down by anaerobic glycolysis to give pyruvic acid, which is the reduced to lactic acid by the action of lactic dehydrogenase. But in an intact muscle, the blood supply minimizes the above effect by continuously supplying the oxygen and nutrients to the functioning muscles.